Fun!
Hello and welcome to Quackcast number 362. I'm Ozone Ocean, and this Quackcast is about comic hosting sites and which are best. And spoiler, Drunk Duck is the best. Yeah, that's... But we're going to talk about the other ones and the pluses and negatives. Anyway, so with me is the fantastic Tancerine. Hi, Tance.
Hello.
Hello, Milpo. And we have
Nobody's gonna get that.
No.
Pitsy. Hello, Pitface.
Hi.
And Lord Baines. Lord
Hello.
Baines.
Oh, bonjour.
The Master Bainser.
And so we're all going to chat about what we know about different comic hosts, and if we don't know much, we'll just talk about Drunk Duck. Anyway, before we get into that, we have the featured comic, and Quai gave us that. So, Quai, tell us about Flesh and Wires, please.
Hello, this is Quai and the feature I've selected for this week is Flesh and Wires by N. Groot endorsed, and it is rated M for mature. A mysterious murder has been unveiled when Detective Jack's android partner Daisy has been found dead in her apartment with a bullet wound in her head. After falling off the wagon and going on a binge-drinking bender, Jack is assigned a new partner and has to figure out what is happening to the androids in the city. It turns out that Daisy was not the only android acting strange days before her death. The art is hand-drawn using traditional inking methods. All the pages are in black and white and offer nice cityscapes and action sequences. Uncover the mystery of the city's androids and read Flesh and Wires by N. Groot endorsed, rated M.
And that was Quai with Flesh and Wires. Thank you very much for that, Quai. All right, next up we have the featured music that Gun Wallace has given us, Mr. Gun Wallace. He's given us the music to Odd Days, which is a comic by Nightmare Lunatic, also known as Aubrey Miranda. I've met her. She's fantastic. Native of Los Angeles. Okay, so Odd Days. Sometimes you just have one of those days, or many of them in a row. Odd Days. The sound here has a positive, optimistic theme overlaid with harsh, zigzag electric guitar. This tune does well to illustrate the twisted ennui and off-balance and askew takes on everyday life and situations dealt with in this slice-of-life humorous comic. So, take it away, Gun Wallace, with Odd Days. And that was Odd Days. Thanks, Gun Wallace. Lovely. Okay, so
Yay.
comic hosting sites. So when you're doing a web comic and you're just like popping it on the web, you don't really want to create your own site out of the out of the the gate. Sometimes, well, most of the time, it's a lot easier to use a pre-made site like Drunk Duck. Because, these webcomic sites, especially Drunk Duck, well, only Drunk Duck. There's others, but, whatever. there's a lot of choices. But say, it's so much easier because you've got an inbuilt community to give you the support, and to give you help and all that kind of stuff. And, you've got an automatic fan base, or at least, audience that can easily find your work and give you encouragement. You've got, template tools to make your comic site look good. Everything's very simplified and it's all set up. You don't have to pay for hosting and all that guff. When you get a bit better, a bit more confident, you can go and, the custom route, like Tance did, and set up a magnificent site with comic press. And also Baines and I have our site as well that Tance set up for us, which is another comic press site. So yeah, you can always hire Tance and she'll do it for you.
Yeah. And where do you find Tance? On Drunk Duck.
Exactly. Precisely. So what are the other comic sites we know? There's Drunk Duck, Comic Fury, Smack Jeeves, Comic Genesis.
The other one is
I'll go on, Tance.
Tapas.
Yeah, I think it's called. Yeah, it's either Tapas or Tapastic or something like that. I think it had both those names, and who cares? It's not Drunk Duck. And Webtoons. So Tapas and Webtoons are like very newbie kind of sites. These have just sort of exploded and become really popular in the last couple of years. So they're very new. They have advantages in that, they're new, they're they're all shiny, so they look really new and modern. And they have the latest kind of popular features. I think they're a bit rusty too. So not rusty, rough. There are some things they don't do well, like their mobile site is crap. Shiny and Chrome. Their mobile sites are pretty crap, and they've sort of fallen into the bloody Google a couple of years ago said, okay, sites without mobile versions are going to be downgraded in our search results. So these sites created mobile sites in order to get higher on the Google rankings, and that's one thing that's hurt Drunk Duck because we couldn't afford to do that. That was something that we couldn't afford to do. Meanwhile, these sites, aren't that. These sites have terrible mobile sites and terrible mobile apps that are absolutely useless. Whereas Drunk Duck, we only have our desktop version, which works fine on mobiles and actually we work better when you're using a mobile device because we don't shunt you off to a bloody mobile version. You don't have to specially enable a desktop version and go to a special URL to make it work. Just use our proper desktop version and it's fantastic. Not like a shitty bloody mobile site. And Drunk Duck is never going to have a mobile site. What we'll do is have an adaptive version, so it will be better. It will work on mobile and desktop with the same site, but it will adapt to the screen better than it does now. See, it works perfectly now on mobile without an issue. If you've got a modern, mobile operating system, it should work fine. But that way it won't be so tiny and you won't have to zoom in, zoom out like you have to do. So yeah, there's that. But anyway, sites that shunt you onto mobile sites without giving you a very easy kind of way of shifting between that are crap. Because mobile sites they're a shitty idea because it costs so much to make a mobile version of your site. And then anytime you change your coding or whatever, or add new features, you have to update your mobile site as well. And that never happens. People do not update mobile versions of their sites. Even Facebook the mobile version of Fate, which is the most popular website in the world, is crap. They don't update it, and there are things that don't work on their mobile site. So, yeah, it's a bad idea. So sites that do that. Anyway, what do you guys experience? What other webcomic sites have you tried? This is my rant against mobile sites. Did you? Oh, go on.
Yeah, I mirrored mine for a while on Comic Fury.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it was okay. It's funny enough, some of the same readers on Drunk Duck, just a couple, like literally one or two, would comment over on Comic Fury. It was the same people from over on the Duck.
So you got Scream and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, so that was kind of neat. And I liked the layout. I liked the comment feature that Drunk Duck now is going to have. That was kind of a big upside, and it was an okay site, but never as much sort of camaraderie or as many comments as on the Duck.
You know, the funny thing about Comic Fury is they got a lot of their good people came straight from us, because they really really came into their own when we had like the dying days of WoWio, I think it was, at that stage. And Drunk Duck was going through a pretty crappy period for a time, and we had a huge exodus of people onto Comic Fury. So that's why they're all there, because they, just didn't have the problems that we had at that stage, because Drunk Duck was going really, really, really crap at that particular era. Yeah, and actually, Comic Fury was mostly actually based on Drunk Duck. Because, of course, the founder, what was his name? Poison Ivy was what he was on Drunk Duck, and now he's Kaio. He started out on Drunk Duck, and that's, where he got a lot of his ideas from. Yeah, so...
Oh, okay. I didn't know
again, Drunk Duck is the center of everything.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever start out on Comic Genesis?
No.
Well,
I think I looked at it, but no, I didn't post anything, I don't think.
That used to be... Drunk Duck and Comic Genesis were basically the two main comic web hosts back in the day. Like, way back in the early 2000s, it was us and them. Comic Genesis, they came first. They were actually called Keen Spot? No, Keen Space they were called. Keen Space. They had two sites. They had Keen Spot, which was... for their pro, that was like their upper class members, and the lower rabble were the Keen Space, and you could be promoted into the high kind of echelons of Keen Spot, or you could just stay with all the rabble self-publishers on Keen Space, which was, you've already got a two-tier system. You're giving all the best stuff to one group and the crappier stuff to the other group, and literally it was crappier because they had slower servers and, fewer updates to the system and all that kind of stuff. But they had a massive community, so they had that going for them. But and you could customize your site as well back then, but you had to know their system, and their system was labyrinthine. It was Byzantine. Really, really difficult and tricky to use. It was not good. And Drunk Duck came just like a short time later than that, designed by Dylan Squires, also known as Vault 6, I think. And he simplified everything, streamlined it, so much better than Comic Genesis. And actually, yeah, it was called like Keen Spot, as I say, and Keen Space, and to further differentiate them from the rabble, that's why they changed the name to Comic Genesis. So it'd stay Keen Spot for all the hoity-toity picked people, and Comic Genesis for the rabble, and so that was a bit left a bit of a sour taste in the mouth because they wanted to differentiate for advertisers. And, these are good ones. We're affiliated with these other guys, but they're not really part of it. So there's a separation. So But yeah, so that was a bit off. And a lot of people would switch between the two sites. They would be on Drunk Duck and they'd be on Comic Genesis, and you'd get lost in the crowd on Comic Genesis because there'd be so many people, and it'd be harder to find your fan group. And it was a lot easier to sort of make your splash on Drunk Duck, and it was just so much better.
It definitely was, and that's part of the reason why the duck became my choice. Drunk when it was back in the day. But I remember Putrid Meat, I tried posting it on Smack Jeeves for a little while, and this was years ago, so I have no idea what the state of Smack Jeeves is now. And then I also was posting it on DeviantArt, which is shit for any exposure. So the only way you get it, see, that's the thing, is it doesn't have like the front page features or anything like that. It does, but nobody's going to see you on there.
Yeah.
Because it's like bullets flying by. But basically, the fans that I did get on there, because I did end up getting a little following on there for a little while. And that was, I'm pretty sure, purely because I would hound the message boards and post my work, little thumbnails of my work, which that was a nice thing about DeviantArt in that sense, that it allows you to post thumbnails of your work. So instead of being like, all right, well, here's, come and check out my stuff. You might like it because X, X, and X and blah, blah, blah. You post little snippets of your work. So I stayed on that for some time as well as the duck. I didn't post on Smack Jeeves for very long because I just didn't feel there was that kind of opportunity as much to go out and grab people and kind of pull them in and stuff. It seemed like it was more up to your fate on the site. But at the same time too, I didn't take as much time to kind of really learn it. So that might be unfair on my part. Maybe there was a way to interact more and get more people's attention, but I just didn't find it.
Yeah.
So I stopped posting on there because I lose interest quickly if I already have something else that's providing better exposure. So
that's well put.
You can only keep up, I found myself, because I posted on everywhere as well back in the day, but you can only keep up with a very limited amount of communities. You can post everywhere, but in order to get popular, you have to be embedded in the community, like you say, with the thumbnails and all that kind of stuff. Or you have to learn it, like these people interact in the forums, so I'll do that. These people do, thumbnails, or these people do comment on different comics, and that's how you get it. And you have to learn that, and you have to do it and keep it up in order to become popular. And you can't keep that up on a bunch of sites. You can only do that like on one or two sites.
Yeah, that's very true. It's a lot of energy to expend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, massive amount of energy. Yeah, you haven't got the time in the day. It's just too hard.
I used to try to draw in readers by pretending I needed help moving a couch into a van. And people would walk by. But that was the whole thing. We don't have to go into that.
Oh, that works better than the offering the sweets. Offering the sweets outside the schools and stuff. So
it is one bad.
That's right.
I heard
there's always the trick of being of pretending you have a broken leg and needing some help to go and fit into your Volkswagen that has no seat.
That's right.
It has no seat.
The locks are all filed down and stuff, and you put a laptop in front of him, make him read your comic.
Johnson and Ted Bundy references.
Yeah.
Well, you can wait in the sewer and offer balloons. That's
That's
how Smack Jeeves gets them in.
Again, it's time consuming.
There's also the characters of the site that, you know, say Smack Jeeves back in the day was a boy love site. That was the main thing. You know, if you had that kind of comic, you'd go far. They loved it there. You know, the boy love and yaoi and all that kind of stuff.
I know I should have put up that one chapter with Bones and Puke in there.
That actually would have been a good idea. It would have worked. So that's what they were into. I don't know if they still do it, but yeah, oh my god. That was really, really good for that kind of stuff. Which
not the case anymore, as far as you know? Or?
I don't know. I just haven't kept up with it. And because I lost interest, I wasn't into that kind of thing. So.
Well, I heard the same thing about Smack Jeeves, but yeah, I'm the same. I haven't really kept up with the culture of any other sites. So.
I noticed a lot of manga there, or manga.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was, again, it's, you know, I don't mind manga. That's great, but it gets a bit samey. That's what I didn't like initially about Tapastic or Tapas, whatever they're calling it now. I believe it started as a Korean site. I'm not sure. So I had that character. But a lot of the comics they promote on their front page are all the same. They all have that very slick kind of manga look. And I just thought, well, I don't like it. I like rough work. I like variation. That's why on Drunk Duck, we promote like a huge variation of stuff. We like gritty stuff. We like enthusiastic, you know, homemade kind of, you know, interesting. We don't like a slick, polished look. I actually find that really distasteful. I like slick, polished comics in moderation. How about you guys? You've got to have a bit of a mix.
Yeah, having the variety is great, and even in our top 10 on the doc, there's a nice variety of stuff, and in the features, obviously, there's huge variety.
Exactly.
That's great. Yeah, that's what you want.
Exactly. Give people a look at go on, Tant, sir.
Yeah, no, I was saying that when you do have when you're a hosting site, unless it is a niche hosting site, like we only host these kinds of comics, and you are going to find this particular style and this particular theme or genre or whatever, which is totally legit. If you don't advertise your stuff like this, then I think that you do need to have a wide variety to be able to cater to a lot of readers and creators at the same time. Otherwise, okay, but you're going to get that niche following anyway.
You are.
Like you're not going to avoid it.
And you don't want to be... you don't want to show yourself as being exclusionary. When I first saw that, on Tapas, they had all those kind of slick comics promoted on the front site because they probably thought this fits our image and this will make ourselves look really good and modern and, you know, we've got great stuff. But then you look at it and you think, well, where are the kind of comics that I would like to read or that I would like to post? You know, this isn't a place for me. That's automatically what you think if you don't fit in with that kind of stuff. So... yeah, exactly. Whereas on
I would kind of say we're like DC and Marvel. That's what I think.
On Drunk
that was more mocking the other, but yes,
exactly.
That's an interesting idea, Baines. Why don't you elaborate?
Thank you. Well, see, we're the mainstream. We're sort of inclusive. I don't know. I just read what Pitt wrote.
Oh, shit. Well, on Drunk Duck, we have so much variation, like we say, but everyone can feel included. There's something for every taste, and we don't limit ourselves. On Drunk Duck, we have Sprite comics. And we don't give a shit. You can post Sprite comics. That's fine. We have manga. We have adult sex comics. If that's your thing, you want to read that, if you want to post that, go right ahead. We're not gonna
Shame you.
Shame you, exactly. We have non-adult sex. No, we don't. They're all adult. That's dodgy territory. No, yeah. So we have furry comics. They're fine. Do whatever. There's another site, Fur Affinity. So if you only do fur comics and you only want to read fur comics, you can go there. But you don't find anything else. So
You're also welcome here. He's not secretly trying to shove you away somewhere else. We're not mean. You can stay.
we love furry comics. We love all sorts.
They're allowed to.
There's such a weird little aside that you did. You're like, yeah, then we have this and this, then we have furry sites, but there's also another furry site, just so you know. I'm just like, what the fuck?
Well, I mean,
so there's a site that goes for that niche, but
yeah. So there's the Comic Genesis and all that kind of stuff. But you'd say anybody can post on Comic Genesis. I think anybody can post on Smack Jibs, but you can't post on Fur Affinity unless you have a furry comic. So it's not a general site; it's only for a specific kind of thing. So it's not really on the same tier as the rest of the comic hosts.
I gotcha. Yeah.
I don't know if there's any other sites like that, but yeah, that's the only one I know that only does that specific kind of thing. It's fine.
We're a big tent. Come on in.
Yeah, and
bring in your furries. Bring in your sprites.
Exactly.
Bring in your bearded ladies.
Bring in your bearded sprite furries.
Exactly.
With adult sex comics.
Hey, I just remembered. You guys want to hear what I first read about Drunk Duck when I was looking into webcomic sites because I wanted to do one. So I started looking around, and what it said. I don't remember what it said about the other sites, but at the time, it said Drunk Duck is the biggest site. Like if you want to get comments and people actually like looking at your comment, at your comic, that's where you go. Like go to Drunk Duck. It's got the biggest community. And then it went on to say though that the community though is the vast majority is like 14-year-olds. And if you don't mind people like 5 people stealing your comic as soon as you post it and posting it under their own name, then if you don't care about that, go for it.
See, that's so weird. Was that a thing back in the day? Because
that's
maybe
what I
this
read.
speaks
That's
more
not
from
my
putrid me,
experience.
but I've never had that ever happen.
No.
Maybe we're just not good enough to be
Well, that could
stolen.
be. No one wants to steal it. Yeah. It's like,
Steal my work.
Yeah.
no, that's not my experience of Drunk Duck at all. I mean, I don't know if anyone took the comic or whatever,
I
but
think that was probably based on Spriters. Because the Spriters would always complain about, oh my god, you stole my Sprite. Oh, you stole my Sprite. Oh. Back in the day.
As long as they don't take the Mountain Dew. That was bad. Fucking terrible.
Back in the day, that was a massive problem. Us admins were constantly dealing with Spriters having fights. And the thing was, they'd all be recolored versions of some other sprite they'd find like in sprite sheets that someone posts on DeviantArt, and they'd be complaining about, oh, you stole my sprite, whereas no, you all stole it from Sega or Nintendo or something.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. Yeah.
But we
Yeah, maybe that's
them.
what they were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, that is exactly the kind of stealing what was going on. Like, these 15-year-olds with their Sprite comics. We loved them, though. We loved them.
Yeah, nothing against 15-year-olds, obviously, but let's just what it says. Like, it's all young people are going to rip off your comic, but you'll get comments. It's like, all right, I'll go there.
Well, we loved the Spiders too. They were cool. I loved their, their enthusiasm and the energy that they put into their work. A lot of drawn comics people started out doing sprites, and that's how they got into it. Because it easily allows you to create a story and a scene with all characters without having to draw everything. You can just place them.
And story-wise, I mean, you could still do some. It's interesting to see where people take it too. Story-wise, there were a few comics out there that legitimately made me laugh. I can't remember. There was the Mega Man one, and there was a Zelda one too, wasn't there? I thought there was something with like Twilight Princess Link. Unless there was a running gag. See, now I can't even remember, but I just remember because there was I was looking back when I was looking back in my archives for the Drunk Duck Awards one year. I had Bones present the category for, I think it was like Spriter Comics or something like that. And I do have to admit I was making myself laugh pretty hard with the presentation that I had created. And because Bones gets up there and he's doing his spiel and stuff like that. And see, if I describe it, it's just going to be dumb. But anyway, it made me remember some of those old comics because they had the characters sitting amongst the audience as well and stuff. It's like, oh, there's such and such. And whatever happened to that guy? And who's it? And, all those spiders fell by the wayside.
Well, like the genesis of Spiders was 8-bit theater, I think. That was the one that really, and that wasn't host on Drunk Duck. That had his own. He had his own site, and he was the guy who really made it really popular, and everyone copied it after that. You know, maybe there were some guys before that, but 8-bit theater was the guy who really made sprite comics, and yeah, but. Yeah, we had Mega Man ones were really popular. Sonic was super popular.
Oh, yeah.
Sonic. Oh, my God. The different bloody Sonics.
Even I know about that, and I don't even read sprites, so it must be.
Yeah.
They'd create new Sonics all the time. Say, oh, my God, this Sonic is like the super emo Sonic. And so he's all black.
The super emo Sonic.
They're all different versions. Oh, dude, it was such fun. Such fun. Yeah, they used to all have their little battles. We did like them. But what other comics hosting kind of things? Pitt mentioned DeviantArt, which was quite good for, you know, a way of doing it.
DeviantArt is good to have as a portfolio if you want to showcase your work in general. It has a very nice arrangement and it's easy to organize so that can direct people to go see certain things. But in my opinion, I mean, there are people that host their comics solely on DeviantArt, but I don't think it's efficient. Like, it's not built to present comics, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, because
so,
the archive is mixed, sort of jumbled. It's not really clear, like this to this to this. You can't go to next page. Comments on it are really awkwardly done because they sort of appear underneath the comic in this like odd way where this threading is just so clumsy. I hate it. It's not easily kind of organized. Their notification feature is useful, comment notification, but it's sort of just, it's all awkward. It's not a well-designed site in so many ways. It's like something a programmer came up with and it's never been honed.
It's not easy to really, and if you do sit there and try to read through a comic page by page, it's really not easy to sit there and click through. It's not as intuitive as it is on the Duck. So yeah, it's nice if you're going to like look at individual pictures and stuff like that. But reading something serialized is a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, Webtoons is another very popular one. I haven't really looked into that, but we have a great feature about Webtoons and tapas by Anne McClare, who we had on last week. She did a whole big expose of them when she first started doing the news post. So I'll link to those in the notes. So yeah,
an expose. It was like that movie Spotlight. You've seen that? It was the same thing.
No,
I
I haven't
so sinister.
partook.
Oh, okay, you haven't seen it.
I haven't partaken. Reminds me
Great
of
minds, great minds.
what was that film with Danny DeVito and all his Australian actors? Something about Hollywood noir. Oh, damn it!
Danny DeVito, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Hollywood noir.
Whatever. It was. He was like this. He was like this news reporter who was doing all these scandalous news reports, and it was a fantastic noir sort of movie set in the 1940s or the 30s or something like that, about all the bad things happening in Hollywood and police murders. But yeah, it was.
And Danny DeVito was that character? Was that journalist?
Yeah.
I don't remember this movie.
He was the one doing the exposés. Anyway,
Right.
just bloody hell. Anyway, so comic hosting. People use
Sidetrack.
Tumblr. That's a good thing for comic hosting, but only for certain kinds of comics. You can't do you can't get popular doing like an adventure comic on Tumblr. The comics that really well, it hasn't got the audience. Comics that do well on there, because on Tumblr you don't really need an audience so much as you need people sharing your comic or reblogging it or whatever you do. And to do that, you need something with political commentary or something that's relatable in, I don't really like to use the term, but social justice sort of thing. That really appealed to the group on Tumblr. Or comics that sort of are very dogmatic. They say, this is how I feel, and you've got to learn it and understand it because this is me. You know, I've got this, I'm colorblind, and everyone must know the terrible struggle I have being a colorblind person. I can't see, you know, that kind of stuff. So those get sort of spread around and reblogged. Yes, share my pain of being a colorblind person. Yeah, this. Oh God, whatever. But yeah, those kind of things get really big. Something that is more relatable to your specific niche gets really picks up in popularity, and you get reblogged. But like Pinky TA would just sink into obscurity. Would not work on Tumblr because it's not direct enough. It's not telling people about something or making a comment. So yeah, those are the kind of things that work well there. And again, it's not a good system in any way for a serial comic. It's only for things that are standalone. Yeah, especially vertical rather than something big and like a normal page thing. If something is vertical, so that's why Tumblr is good for mobile devices. Twitter, you could post your comic there, but I don't know. People usually promote comics on Twitter.
Twitter will not help you present your comic, but it can help you spread the word about it. It's more like if you treat it like a way to connect with fans off site, and a way to advertise, then it will yield results. But you do need, in my opinion, to have some place where people can go and read in peace, let's say, and be able to easily find your pages in an orderly manner. Because in Twitter, someone would need to go through your tweets or a Twitter thread in order to understand and read the comic. That is not going to help with immersion, and you will need some really dedicated readers that are decided to find your comic, like some sort of Twitter archaeologist that is going to
Twitter archaeologist, a Twitterologist. Yes,
yes. They're not going to be many of those.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my God, Twitter is not a good thing for organizing. Though you do have people who are like really dedicated, and they do that. They like journalists, especially. They pick up a whole Twitter thread and they repost it in order. Those people are just insane. You do screen captures and all, but yeah, that's not going to happen for your comic, most likely.
Unless some journalist is out to destroy you and they sort of bring up something that offended everybody.
Oh yeah, so your Nazi comic, yeah.
Yeah, that they are going to look at that, but then only the choice pages. You are still not going to get a sequentially presentation of this. So
that if you
still
were,
it's the purpose.
if you were like an unethical person and you just want popularity and nothing else, then go to Twitter and post a Nazi comic or, you know, some kind of socially controversial kind of thing, and you will probably, you know, find you'll get picked up by something, and you'll have to go by the, you know, the adage, all publicity is good publicity. If you actually believe that and you can accept the consequences, then by all means, try and give that a go.
Be discovered by Milo Yiannopoulos or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, you'll make your way in the world, and yeah, it might work, but yeah, that's not my thing.
What about Snapchat? Do comics on that?
I would.
I don't even barely know what that is. But.
That's
I don't know.
Yeah, Snapchat is not for anybody above the age of 25.
Okay, well then I could go on it.
Exactly.
But
Snapchat is not really for it's not for things that last. See, comics, you post it.
I might even think of something else.
You can go back to it and have a look at it. Whereas Snapchat is more for momentary stuff, ephemeral,
yes.
Like a picture of a person
Were you
doing
thinking
something.
of?
Which, depending on your comic, I guess could.
Were you thinking of Instagram?
Maybe I'm thinking. I think I am thinking of Instagram. I'm sorry.
Instagram could work. That's very much like the same kind of system as Tumblr, but very different kind of crowd. So you're not having your social justice kind of stuff there. On Instagram, people are mainly concerned with the aesthetics of images, so that could work if you had the right kind of crowd.
I was thinking of Instagram then, yeah.
But you don't have the built-in audience like you do on a webcomic site. That's the disadvantage. You might be able to reach a different crowd, but they're not really looking for comics necessarily. So you could use that as a tool, but yeah, take it on as, you know, take the risk there. Investing into a platform that's not going to give you that much return. That's the problem with that kind of thing. Whereas posting on Drunk Duck, it's so much better. All right. One other thing we should address is
what about Facebook?
Facebook?
Can you post comics on that?
No, not really. You can do it, but nobody really does. It's just, Facebook's
You
not
only
really
keep
consistent.
like a page, like a fan page. So it's like the idea is to keep, like, more or less like Twitter, you keep a presence there so that people will get an idea of what it is that your comic is about, little tidbits and stuff, things that will attract people to go and actually check out your comic in its actual base, where you have it.
The disadvantages of Facebook is that it will hide things from, like, you got a bunch of people who like your content, basically, so they want to have it appear in their feed so they can go and check on it. But Facebook only shows it to like 20% unless you pay, so it's bloody useless. Facebook makes itself useless, so yeah, it's not very good for that kind of thing. Another great thing we have to mention is this Webtoons, I think, has popularized this name, web format, and print format. They've actually made a distinction. And what they mean there is a vertical comic you can keep scrolling, and it works better on mobile phones. See, this wasn't an idea invented by Webtoons. This is an older
Scott, what's his name there in
McLeod?
One of his books, Scott McLeod, talked about the endless page or the infinite page or whatever.
Yeah, he came up with the whole concept.
Yeah.
In relation to using it on the computer screen. And that was his brilliant idea. A lot of people experimented with it and, really thought this is crap. But a lot of people have been doing it for ages. It works well on Tumblr. But Webtoons has sort of, taken off with that, and that's their big thing, I think. And a lot of people do it now, and they think, that's like an alternative to doing the other style of comic. But there are huge disadvantages in that, because if you're doing an infinite scroll, it works shit. If you ever want to do a print comic, you have to reformat the whole thing. So that involves, 3-4 times the work. You have to either cut all those panels up and replace them into a panel page and think, oh my god, how many of these panels am I going to fit in a page? And panel pages are designed as panel pages because all those panels, they fit in a specific moment of a page. If you've got panels that work in a scrolling thing, maybe all those panels work together in that huge scroll of 50 panels or whatever. How are you going to decide which ones fit in a panel page, and are they really going to work? Or it's not a good
basically
thing.
It's a layout thing.
Yeah.
And page comics, print comics or whatever, the layout for those people that are actually better than me in any case, the layout itself is part of the narrative, and it is part of the pathos that you create for your audience.
Exactly.
So I don't know how that would work in an endless scroll. I have actually experienced some of those, a couple of those comics, and they can be stunning. But even they have, I don't know how they would work in a page, a single page, because they are designed to have this flow of one funnel into the next, like a river, so to speak. So maybe they are not. You have to know that it's not going to be easy to have it in print form.
Yeah, you do. Look, it's a valid way of displaying your stuff, especially if it's only going to be on the web. It's a totally valid way. Drunk Duck really doesn't support that very well. The big problem with Drunk Duck is we have this stupid system. Well, it's good in some ways, but it automatically crops pages down to a width of 960 pixels. So you can't have really wide pages. So you can't have a horizontal infinite scroll. Yeah, I think there is no limit on vertical. You can do what you like there. And
I've done some, sort of, I think my longest page was 5 sort of comic book type pages, maybe 6. You scroll all the way down. And the file size was pretty small, so I don't think it was an issue.
Another popular thing, although we should offer this as an alternative display method on Drunk Duck, is not necessarily making pages have an infinite number of panels, but your pages, when you click on to look at a comic, all the pages display vertically rather than clicking next. You have
that
all
would be
the
awesome.
pages.
Yeah.
But the disadvantage of that is that they're all loading at the same time, which is fantastic on a computer. But when you've got mobile or something like that, that immediately, fills up your RAM with all those pages, maybe 100 mega RAM or something like this, or maybe,
Right.
maybe 300 or something, because all that artwork is showing, and that can slow things down. So there are disadvantages to doing that. But I think we should still offer it. I don't think people should necessarily jump into doing that, but,
Right.
we should offer them the alternative. We should.
It'd be nice. There's that one of the like reading manga online. There's one site that has that. You can select an option: show 1 page, or show 5 pages, or show 10, or show the whole issue, 30 pages, or whatever. And you just select. I think by default it just shows 1 page.
Okay.
But you can select to show the entire issue, which is that can be nice.
Yeah, if we had that, or
Manga Park, something,
a horizontal version as well. Offer the option. People like options. We should do it. We should do it. So that should be like a future update to Drunk Duck. I'm gonna try and remember that because I think that would be a popular thing. What else am I going to say? Okay, some advantages and disadvantages to these other sites. I think Webtoons and Tapas, they don't offer the same options for making your site look really, personalized. Drunk Duck has a very simplified system for this. It's simplified. You can't do HTML editing, but you can do certain things that are still pretty cool regardless. And people have made some really good looking templates themselves. But you can't necessarily do that on other sites. A lot of them just don't offer you the options. So again, Drunk Duck is the best. Don't you agree, guys?
Heck yeah.
Can I get a heck yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to have something that's personalized, really personalized, you can get Tance and she'll do you a WordPress site and it'll look...
She'll do you a site.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it'll look brilliant. But if you want something that you can do yourself and you can set up, without a massive amount of customization, but still looking pretty good, Drunk Duck is the site for you. It's nice and slick and very easy to use. Can't recommend it highly enough. You can have your own links to things and just all sorts of cool stuff.
Or you guys come and engage a little bit in other people's comics or on the forums, and you'll find very nice people, and they'll come and read your comic.
Exactly.
I gotta say, one thing that kept me on preferring the Duck was listening to the Quackcast, man. Obviously, seriously, well before I was on it, of course. But I'd play it every week. Loved it.
Yeah. We offer the Quackcast every week, and we have done this for years now. This isn't something we just jumped into because podcasts are popular these days. We don't care if we're popular. We do this anyway.
Which is good.
Exactly. We're dependable. That's us. Yeah, so we offer all sorts of different things. On Drunk Duck, you'll be lost in the crowd, basically, when you're on these other sites. That's what happens. You'll be lost in the crowd. Whereas on Drunk Duck, you might get featured on the front page. You might get Gun Wallace doing a musical theme for you. This doesn't happen on other comic sites. They don't give a crap who you are.
That's true. That's cool. That Gun Wallace does that. Amazing.
I think actually that if you are enthusiastic enough about your own comic and you keep at it enough, and like you keep updating and everything, there is no way that you will not be featured. You will be featured eventually because you are going to, this enthusiasm that you have is going to attract the attention of the moderators at some point, usually quite early actually.
Yeah.
Yes,
so,
that's true. As long as it's not a strictly adult comic, which they don't feature.
But you don't
exactly
need
what you said.
The adult comic will attract the attention of your audience anyway because
that is true.
They are on the lookout for it. So you don't need extra exposure. You are already very exposed. So okay.
Expose yourself. Oh God. Yeah, so that's what we do. We like to share things. We like to promote things. We like to have our, make everyone popular. Basically, we like to. We'll promote your comic on our Facebook site. We promote it on the Quackcast, as well as the front page of our site. So we want you to have readers. We care about that.
Yes, because we believe that a rising tide raises all ducks.
Precisely.
We're not classists like that other site you're talking about. Wants a tiered system.
Those guys.
Exactly. Yeah, that was always like a bit of a, a bit of a problem with Comic Genesis. They had that 2-tier system. Fair enough for them trailblazing away. They were just a slightly before Drunk Duck when they sort of set up. That was Crosby, I think the guy's name was Crosby. Him and his mum, they set up the site together, and they did a lot of good things.
But, and they were just they were trying stuff, and they were early.
They were pioneers
on the scene. They were just trying to figure stuff out. So nothing against them personally or whatever, but.
Just wasn't a good way of doing it.
When I joined Drunk Duck, I remember when I decided to find a place to post my comic. That wasn't actually a comic yet. I didn't know that though. I just did this Google search and Drunk Duck and Smack Chips came up, and the reason that I signed up with Drunk Duck was because it didn't scare the hell out of me. It actually was inviting. Whereas Smack Chips, at least the impression that I had back then, and when I say back then, I mean around 2006, maybe early 2006, late 2005, somewhere around there. It was this soccer mom mentality, in the sense that you have to be awesome and you have to already know your stuff and be able to defend your stuff, because all the critics are going to come and eviscerate you, and it didn't feel like a place where you could grow. It was a place where you could compete, and it wasn't what I was looking for. So
yeah, that was always the thing about Drunk Duck. It was a more nurturing environment. Whereas, a lot of the others, like Comic Genesis, Keen Space, you could get lost in the crowd there so easily, and you had to compete with others for views. And as you say, Smack Jeeves as well. That was a highly competitive environment, and there was a lot of negative comments there. It's very, very competitive. You're fighting against other people in order to rise to the top. So it's not so good when you're starting out. Fair enough if you've already got that combative, competitive personality and way of dealing with things, maybe you'll thrive.
That might be what some people want. Yeah, totally. I could see some people being in that position where they want to get as good as possible. Get in there and compete and all that stuff.
We had some of those on Drunk Duck back in the day, and they did not tend to fit in that well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They sort of rubbed against people the wrong way, and they didn't work out that well. But it takes all kinds, But, even though they didn't fit in that well, we still welcomed them like everybody else. And, eventually they did find a place here, which was good. Back in the heyday.
Tense does. Yeah, in the big old salad days. Tans, you remind me of how much anxiety there was to starting a webcomic. And I remember how it seems so strange to think of now, but just the level of worry was so high, and the anxiety was so strong. It definitely took me a long time to post, and the Duck kind of seemed a little more accepting, I guess.
Yeah.
It's funny to be that scared.
Oh, yeah. It's like
And
starting a new
I have
school.
to say-
I
I have
guess.
to say that there was this period, like the drunk duck always had this nurturing environment, this feeling that even if you fell flat on your face trying to do something, people would actually help you pick yourself up from that face plant in a way that you know how not to do the things that you did wrong next time. So that was, and it still feels like this today. But there was this very small period of time, like a very narrow window, where this, I don't know, maybe it was like a huge influx of people from other places, especially from very competitive sites, that they came to the DAC for some reason. I don't remember exactly when, to connect it to an event. But I do remember that there was suddenly this influx of very aggressive people that felt they had to be extremely caustic, in a sense, in everything
Yes.
they said.
Caustic, I like that. You're so diplomatic.
And in a sense that even their good word had to be backhanded, like they would pitch slap you with a compliment.
Right.
And
Hey, you finally did an okay looking page. That kind of thing.
yes, exactly.
That's okay for a troglodyte effort.
Compared to your last 100 pages, this is actually not bad.
Yeah. Like, okay, now it's actually readable now. I
Oh, God.
I like the letters.
At least you've got your guttering straight. God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was during the Platinum days, because Platinum gave, when Platinum Studios bought out the site, that gave Drunk Duck a certain cachet. And they had this thing attached to the whole Platinum thing, which was, if you catch the eye of a particular art director or something, you might get your thing made into a movie. You might get optioned to a TV show. You could, make the jump into like professional publishing, because that was actually offered and people did get deals. So that's why we had a lot of those. Everyone was like, it was a gold rush. All these people came in, and
Yeah, there was a feverish.
I couldn't do
that's Baines' gold. That's Baines' prospect.
I'm like, why are you a witch all of a sudden? Like,
You gotta do Hayseed, Baines. Hayseed's the old
exactly.
gold
It's been so
prospector.
long. I gotta resurrect.
Yeah.
A lot of people joining the documentary. Like,
I'll help you.
sideways.
I'll help you. Hey, Uncle. See, I can't do it anyway.
Oh, Daisy, it's been a long time. Yeah,
Baines is.
Oh, you still do smell like all the freshest cow manure.
Baines is that stereotypical bearded old guy who runs out of the mine just dressed in his red onesie with the back hanging off. Oh, jeez. Exactly.
Yes, sir.
That was what Drunk Duck was like back in the day. Jeez, someone has to make
That's
a comment
right. It
about
was a
that.
gold rush. Yeah.
Yeah. We had exactly like that.
All these crazy toothless types running in.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez. That's
Makes me like, now that you brought it into this analogy, like I think that I felt like those ladies, the older ones in the city that suddenly gets the gold rush, and people are rushing back and forth while she's waiting at the pier for the train. That sort of, with those bird hats and
Yeah.
and the weirded out look. That was me.
with a bonnet, looking very prim faced.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Yes, that was precisely what we were like. I can imagine myself as Doc Holliday. It's because I'm narcissistic.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to do
You
that.
would. You just want to wear all the the long black coat,
The
and look
finery.
all yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fancy
I
mustache.
don't know what I'd be. I don't know
Painted
what I'd
lady.
be. I'd just like the
You would
there you
be
go.
a
There you go. Oh, you painted lady. I get up on the
No
the
freaking
bar
way.
stool.
Back there.
Now-
What's Mo's song? Money gets you one more round, drink it down, you stupid clown. Money gets you one more round, and you're out on your ass, and then he falls off. I love that clip so much. I remember when I joined the Duck, and maybe this is kind of off of topic now, but I remember all this kind of going on, but I never felt dread in posting my comic for the first time, and I never really got on the like I wanted people to notice me and stuff, but it was never in my head that somebody would come and pick it up and put it to greater heights. I think my mind was so singular because I was so excited just to get on there and start posting it. I was so excited in my story. I was so excited in my character. I was in effect too excitement high to be scared, even when I probably should have been a little bit scared and maybe refine it. No, I don't want to refine it a little bit more. But I was just like, I was like a heat seeker getting in there, man. I'm like hitting on the doors, like, let me in. But I think I was always just kind of, I don't know, man, just too single-minded to be worrying about anything else too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say you weren't like a painted lady. You were more like some rough cowboy who came into town going, "Here I am! Look at me, guys!"
Nobody when I drop these amazing ideas.
No, go on,
What?
Tons.
No, because everybody was talking.
I was joking. I know that.
No, I see it. What was your idea, Tanya? Tell us your idea. Tell us.
No, I can't.
I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight if you don't.
Go on now.
No, I said that you would be more like Calamity Jane.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Exactly. Calamity Pit.
Exactly.
Tance is Tansy Oakley.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll take that.
We're more just there to mug the people on the way to the gold rush. I'm the Donner Party is what I am. I'm the Donner Party. I fell so far off the fucking track that I just started, my party imploded on itself and it had to eat itself in order to survive. And then this one person emerged and he's like, I've seen some shit, man. That's putrid me. That's who I am. I'm the fucking outer solar system. I've had way too much coffee. I'm gonna.
That reminds. Well, I think we've sort of reached just over an hour, so we can end. So if you want to post comics, you got a lot of choice out there, but your obvious choice is Drunk Duck because that's just the best of everything. You'll find a better way to post. All right. Thanks for listening to the Quackcast. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Boo-bye.
Bye-bye. Let's go play D&D.